The birthday cake sat in the center of the dining table, decorated with 7 glowing candles. My daughter, Emma, sat proudly in front of it, wearing a small, careful smile that always appeared whenever she was trying to hide her feelings. This birthday was never meant to be extravagant. I had planned a quiet afternoon in our apartment with my parents, my younger sister Jessica, and a few of Emma's classmates. Everything felt peaceful until the front door swung open. "Sorry I'm late," Jessica called loudly as she walked inside, carrying a luxury shopping bag and removing a pair of expensive designer sunglasses. The boutique took forever. I wanted Emma to have something special. I don't believe in buying cheap gifts. The room fell strangely quiet. I noticed Emma's smile fade for just a second. At only 7 years old, she had already learned when someone was making a comparison without saying it directly. "It's okay," I replied politely. "We were just getting ready to sing." Jessica suddenly stopped beside the table. "Oh, almost forgot." She reached into her handbag and pulled out a thick stack of $100 bills, holding it high enough for everyone to see. "I brought $2,000 for Emma. She can buy whatever she wants. No reason for my niece to look less fortunate than the other kids." The silence became almost painful. Emma's 3 friends stared at the money with wide, amazed eyes. My mother froze while reaching for her glass. My father shifted awkwardly in his chair. Emma simply lowered her head. I took a slow breath. "That's very generous," I said calmly as I unlocked my phone. I opened my email and scrolled until I found the message I had saved. "Is this the same $2,000 Dad transferred to you 3 days ago?" Jessica blinked. "What are you talking about?" I turned my phone so everyone could see the email. "The emergency car repair. Dad sent you this exact amount on Tuesday." Dad looked confused before his face slowly lost its color. "Jennifer, how did you know?" "You copied me on the transfer confirmation, Dad, remember? You wanted me to make sure the payment went through because your banking app wasn't working." Jessica slowly lowered the money. "That's completely unrelated. I was going to pay him back." I looked at her without emotion. "The same way you plan to repay the $3,000 from August?" I opened another email. "Or the $1,500 from June?" Another document appeared. "Or the $5,000 from March?" Mom quietly placed her glass back on the table. "Jessica, you told us those were emergencies." "They were," Jessica answered quickly, although her confidence had disappeared. "Things just kept happening." I glanced toward the luxury shopping bag sitting beside her chair. "Unexpected problems? Or unexpected shopping?" Her eyes narrowed. "You have no right to question how I spend my money." "I wouldn't, if it were actually your money." The room became completely silent once again. Jessica folded her arms, trying to regain the confidence she had walked in with. "You're making a scene for no reason." I met her eyes without raising my voice. "No, you created the scene the moment you walked into my daughter's birthday party and tried to embarrass her in front of her friends." She laughed nervously. "I was just being generous." "You were trying to look generous." I walked over to my desk and picked up a folder I had prepared after seeing Dad's bank transfer. "Since we're already talking about money, let's talk about the truth." Dad shifted uncomfortably. "Jennifer, maybe this isn't the right time." "When would be the right time?" I asked quietly. "After your retirement savings disappear? After Mom has to work again because she's paying Jessica's bills?" Neither of them answered. I opened the folder. "I work as a financial analyst. After Dad accidentally copied me on that transfer, I started asking questions." Jessica's face tightened. "You went through my finances?" "You're listed with Mom and Dad on several financial accounts. As their advisor, I had legal access to the records." She looked as though the floor had disappeared beneath her. I placed several printed pages on the table. "Credit card debt, $47,000. No one spoke. 6 different credit cards, every one of them maxed out. I turned another page. "Your car isn't paid off. It's leased, and you're already behind on the payments." Another page. "The condo you tell everyone you own free and clear still has a mortgage, and it's nearly 3 months overdue." Mom covered her mouth. "3 months?" I nodded. "Your annual salary doesn't come close to supporting the lifestyle you've been showing online." Jessica's breathing became heavier. "You had absolutely no right to investigate me." "I had every right to protect our parents once I realized they were being used," she pointed at me. You're trying to ruin my reputation. I shook my head. No, Jessica, your choices did that long before today. I looked toward Emma. She was sitting quietly with her hands folded in her lap, pretending not to listen. That hurt more than anything else. For years, I continued, you've mocked our apartment, laughed at my old car, and hinted that Emma deserved better clothes and better toys. My voice remained calm, all while pretending to be wealthy with money that never belonged to you. Jessica opened her mouth, but no words came out. I reached into the folder again. One more thing. I held up another document. Last month, you submitted loan applications to 3 different banks. Dad frowned. I never heard about that. You wouldn't have, I replied. She listed you as a co-signer without asking for your permission. Dad slowly stood. You used my name? Jessica's confidence finally collapsed. I was going to explain. When? I asked. After the loans were approved? No one moved. The only sound in the apartment was the quiet crackle of the birthday candles still burning on Emma's beginning. Dad stared at Jessica in disbelief. You used my name without even asking me? Jessica looked from him to Mom, searching for someone to defend her. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone, she whispered. I just needed a little more time. A little more time? I repeated. You've been asking for more time for years. I placed the final pages of the report on the table. Your total debt is close to $90,000. Mom gasped softly. 90,000? Jessica closed her eyes. I can fix it. No, I answered gently, not by pretending everything is fine. The room felt heavy with silence. Then a tiny voice broke through it. Mommy! I turned immediately. Emma looked up at me with hopeful eyes. Can we have cake now? My heart ached. She didn't care about money, designer bags, or family arguments. She only wanted her birthday back. I smiled and walked over to her. Of course we can, sweetheart. Then I looked at Jessica. I think it's time for you to leave. Her head snapped toward me. You can't seriously be throwing me out. I can. This is my home. And today is my daughter's birthday. I'm not going to let anyone ruin another minute of it. Jessica looked desperately at our parents. Mom, Dad, you're really going to let her do this? Dad didn't answer immediately. Instead, he asked one quiet question. Tell me the truth. Jessica swallowed. How much do you actually owe? She hesitated. Finally, her shoulders dropped. Everything together? About 90,000? Mom burst into tears. Dad slowly sat back down, looking completely exhausted. I believed every story, he said quietly. The medical bills, the car repairs, all of it. I placed a hand on his shoulder. Because you're a good father. Jessica wiped away a tear. I only wanted Emma to have nice things. I looked toward my daughter, who was laughing with one of her friends while they watched the candles flicker. Emma already has the things that matter. She has a safe home. She has honesty. She has stability. She has people who truly love her. No amount of borrowed money can buy those. Jessica lowered her eyes. For the first time all afternoon, she had nothing left to say. Without another word, she picked up her purse, grabbed the stack of cash, and quietly walked toward the front door. A moment later, the door clicked shut behind her. The apartment became peaceful again. Emma's best friend smiled nervously. So, are we still having cake? I laughed for the first time that day. Absolutely. Everyone gathered around the table once more. We sang happy birthday together. This time, Emma's smile was real. She closed her eyes, made her wish, and blew out all 7 candles in one breath. The room filled with cheers and laughter. For those few minutes, she was simply a happy little girl enjoying her birthday, the way it should have been from the beginning. Home later that evening, after Emma's friends had gone home and she was happily arranging her new books in her bedroom, my parents stayed behind. The apartment was finally quiet. Dad sat at the kitchen table with the folder resting in front of him, staring at it as if it contained answers he wished weren't true. After several minutes, he finally spoke. How long have you known? I poured 3 cups of coffee before answering. Only a few days. He looked surprised. Just since you accidentally copied me on that bank transfer, something about it didn't feel right, so I started checking the records. Mom sighed deeply. Why didn't you tell us immediately? I wanted facts before accusations. If I'd confronted Jessica without proof, she would have denied everything, and the conversation would have gone nowhere. Dad slowly nodded. That sounds like her. I slid the folder toward him. Everything you need is inside. Credit reports, payment histories, collection notices, and copies of the loan applications. He carefully opened it again. Each page seemed heavier than the last. I thought I was helping my daughter, he whispered. You were, I replied gently. You were helping the daughter you believed existed. He looked at me with tired eyes, but the person we were helping wasn't being honest. Mom reached across the table and squeezed his hand. So, what do we do now? You stop sending money. The words came out softly but firmly. No more emergency transfers. No more mortgage payments. No more paying off credit cards. If Jessica wants to rebuild her life, she has to face the consequences herself. Dad rubbed his forehead. What if she loses the condo? Then she'll find a smaller place. What if collectors come after her? Then she'll have to work out payment plans. What if she gets angry? I smiled sadly. She probably will. But protecting someone from every consequence doesn't save them. It only teaches them someone else will always clean up the mess. Silence settled over the kitchen again. Finally, Dad looked up. I've spent 2 years trying to rescue her. And she's spent 2 years believing someone else would always rescue her, I answered. Mom wiped away another tear. We failed her. No. I shook my head. You loved her. There's a difference. Loving someone doesn't mean protecting them from every mistake. Sometimes love means stepping back and allowing them to learn. Dad slowly closed the folder. I never thought I'd have to do that. None of us do. He looked around my small apartment. His eyes rested on the family photos hanging on the wall, Emma's school drawings taped to the refrigerator, and the cozy living room filled with books instead of expensive decorations. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. You built a good life. It isn't flashy. It isn't perfect. But it's honest. His words meant more to me than any compliment I'd ever received. For the first time in years, I felt like he truly saw me, not as the responsible daughter who never asked for help, but as someone who had quietly built something meaningful. Outside Emma's bedroom, we could hear her laughing to herself while reading one of her new books. That simple sound reminded all of us what truly mattered. Not appearances, not luxury, just peace, love, and a child who felt safe in her own home. After my parents left, I walked quietly to Emma's bedroom. She was sitting on the floor, carefully placing her new books on the lowest shelf, where she could easily reach them herself. When she saw me, she smiled. Did you have a good birthday? I asked. She thought for a moment before answering. The cake was my favorite part. I smiled. Mine too. Then her expression became serious. Mom, is Aunt Jessica poor? I sat beside her on the rug. Not exactly. She spends more money than she earns, and sometimes people try very hard to look successful even when they're struggling. Emma nodded slowly. So pretending is expensive? I laughed softly. Sometimes it's the most expensive thing a person can do. She looked around her room. Are we poor? I gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. No, sweetheart. We have a warm home. We always have food. You have books you love, clothes that fit, friends who care about you, and a family that loves you. That's more valuable than having the fanciest things. She smiled again. I don't think I need $2,000. I didn't think so either. After a brief silence, she grinned. Can we go to the library this weekend? Of course. And maybe get ice cream afterward? That sounds like the perfect birthday celebration. She wrapped her arms around me. I love our life. Those 4 words erased every painful moment from the afternoon. After she fell asleep, I returned to the kitchen. Jessica had accidentally left behind the empty gift envelope she had carried into the apartment. The cash was gone. She had taken it with her. I dropped the envelope into the trash. What happened that afternoon wouldn't solve every problem. Jessica still had difficult choices ahead. There would almost certainly be more uncomfortable conversations, more disappointment, and more consequences. But one thing had changed forever. A clear boundary had finally been drawn. No one would ever again be allowed to make my daughter feel ashamed of the life we had built together. Emma would grow up knowing that kindness mattered more than status, honesty mattered more than appearances, and self respect could never be purchased. Money comes and goes, designer labels fade, luxury loses its shine. But character, integrity, and genuine love are treasures that never lose their value. And if protecting those values meant standing up to my own family, then I would make that choice every single time. Because the greatest gift I could ever give my daughter wasn't wealth. It was the example of living an honest life with courage, dignity, and love.